If you're just joining me on this video, you're probably wondering why I look like a miner. It's because we're underground at the Strataca Salt Mines in Hutchinson, Kansas, investigating some of the claims of paranormal activity witnessed by many others. Upon our arrival, we were introduced to Myron Marcotte of the Strataca Mine. We sat down with Myron and were told about some of the mine's great and amazing history.
I'm Myron Marcotte. I'm the mine specialist here at Strataca, the Underground Salt Museum in Hutchinson, Kansas. And I work as a historian, and I've been here 41 years, and so I know a lot about the mine. Well, salt was discovered in the 1800s by a guy named Ben Blanchard, who's the founder of South Hutchinson. It's an adjacent city, the other side of the river. And he was actually drilling for oil. He thought if he hit oil, that would make his land more valuable. And he discovered salt. However, he never really profited from the salt. He thought it was more or less a waste because he didn't find his oil. And he went on to become president of the Bank of England and things like that. This is the only mine in Hutchinson. There were 3 other salt companies. There was the Kerry Salt Company. There still is the Cargill Salt Company, a part of the Cargill family. And of course, Morton Salt, which is, everybody knows who Morton Salt is. They've been here since the very beginning. This mine did not get started until 1923. They were thinking about it in 1910. We have documents that show that they were talking about, the Kerrys were, they had the land, they knew where the salt was, where they wanted to mine it and everything, but they held off because, I think in part because of the war, World War I. And then you've heard the term the Roaring 20s. Well, there was a lot of prosperity in the 20s, and of course for them there was too, and they had a lot of money, and so they started the salt mine. And the salt mine was a turnkey operation. They hired a company out of Chicago called Allen Garcia Engineering, and they completely developed the mine for them and said, here's the keys, you've got a running mine now, and that's how they did it. Production has never stopped here. Even during the 30s, during the Depression, the mine was still going and still busy. And it has always been that way at this mine. It doesn't matter really what the economy is. What drives the mine is the weather. So the colder it is, the more snow we have in the Midwest, the more the mine prospers. The drier it is, the less snow, they don't do so well. And so when they started the mine, even though it was the most modern mine in the country, all the cars, the mine cars, were hand-loaded. The reason they called it the most modern mine is because there were no animals used. The other 2 salt mines here in Kansas, Canopus and Lyons, they actually started earlier in this mine. They started in the 1890s, but they used animals to pull the carts around and stuff. This was an all-electric mine, and they had electric lights down there, which was a huge improvement. They still use carbide lamps. The miners wore carbide lamps on their heads, but they lay rail down into every room, and they would hand load. They'd blast the salt down right on the rail, hand load the salt in, the 3.5 tons, 2 guys. They would get paid by how many cars they loaded. They got 50 cents a car, and they could load several cars a day. They were some beef guys. As it is today, it's approximately 2.5 miles north to south, and 1.5 miles, maybe 1.75 miles east to west now.
How long does it take for that to get to the bottom?
A couple minutes.
Couple of minutes.
That's what we said, but it sure didn't feel like it.
It's actually a compressor. It's smashing the inside.
Joining us in our descent will be fellow investigators Justin Spurrier and Jason Kupsik.
Yeah.
This is the real deal.
We're gonna die.
This side of the elevator is safe.
This side is? Alright.
No,
They went a long time without any, I mean, I'm sure there was broken arms and things like that, but no real accidents that led to deaths until the 50s. And strangely enough, the owner of the company, which was Howard Carey, he was the president, was the National Safety Council president. And see it as a curse or whatever you want to see it as, when that happened, they right away had 2 accidental deaths underground. Tilton was killed by an explosion, which we think was in the museum area. He wasn't instantly killed, he died at the hospital, but the fatal accident occurred underground. And Swepston was killed on a locomotive accident not far from the museum. Also did not die underground, died at the hospital, but the fatal accident occurred underground. And then they've had a number of health-related deaths, which weren't due to accidents. Harvey Coates had a heart attack and died on the surface. Harley Davis, the most recent, had a heart attack and died at the salt shaft. And then the one that we seem to keep finding all the time is Rudy Philbrick, who had a heart attack and died in the man trip, which was the car that carries miners to and from the shaft to the face. There was also one other death in the 1980s, Jim Petrick, who died, and this was an accident. And he got between 2 rail cars on the surface and was crushed. But I remember the day vividly because it happened about noon, and we got the call underground. We were all in the lunchroom, and they told us what had happened, and we all knew Jim Petrick, of course. Very nice guy, very, very nice guy. And so it was a huge shock. If you've ever worked at a place where something like that's happened, it affects the entire operation. And the word I always had about Jim was that Max, the mine manager at the time, he'd heard about it. They come screaming to him, you know, and he got back, and he was there in time that Jim was laying on the ground, and they pulled the cars apart, and he said, "Tell my wife I love her," which was what a lot of people say, and he's a very religious man, and he said, "Get a priest," and then he passed. It was that quickly, but yeah.
This is a memory of our tour down here to the mine. I doubt we'll make it back because the aliens will probably want to harvest our stuff.
Come on, John, use your back. And we're off. We're gonna die. We're gonna die.
So, the man trip over there is the car that the miners rode in and out of. There's 4 compartments in the man trip. And Rudy Philbrick one day wasn't feeling very good. He was a locomotive operator, and Everett Roberts, his foreman, said, "Well, it's close to quitting time, just go lay down in the man trip." So he laid down in the 3rd compartment. And later on, Bacho Rodriguez, another miner, I knew him very well. And this story was told to me by Bacho. He said he went in there, he started yelling at Rudy, "Wake up, Rudy, wake up!" And grabbed him to shake him, and he said he was cold. And he kind of spoke broken English, and he looked at me with fear in his eyes when he was telling me this story some 25 years later. And he said he jumped out of the man trip and he never rode in the thing again. He drove the locomotive from then on and would not ride in the man trip. So we have the man trip on display here in the Salt Museum. It has been on display since day one. And what I've always noticed, and there's all kinds of logical explanations for this, of course, but I've always noticed there's a perpetual butt print in the third compartment. We could clean it off, the dust will build up after 3 or 4 days or a week, and there'll be a new butt print. Logically, it might be a guest jumping the fence and sitting down in there. That's the most logical thing to explain it. I don't know. It's always there, so that's all I can tell you.
As we started our journey to the center of the earth, Myron gave us a brief but detailed tour of the underground.
Big old chunk there. Okay, so we call that tombstone slab because it looks like a tombstone, and because one of the directors wanted to be laid out on that when she died. And I think a few people wanted to lay her under it, but whatever. It looks like a tombstone. It came from around the corner down that entry, and what we think is there's two things that we think could have happened here. Number one, and it's probably the most correct answer, is that in the late 50s, early 60s, the Atomic Energy Commission was in this mine doing heat transfer, chemical reactivity, and creep and flow experiments. And they would drill holes into the floor, put probes in there, and then heating elements and heat it up really hot and watch it all expand and all. Try to figure out what would happen if they stored nuclear waste in salt. And what they figured out was that this is a great place to store nuclear waste. However, this mine doesn't close fast enough, and they need a mine that closes fast. And so they went to New Mexico and built a waste isolation pilot plant and to store waste there. Well, what we think this was a control. And they cut it out of the wall and drug it out here so they could look at it and examine it and take pictures of it. So they knew what pristine salt looked like compared to salt that they'd heated up or put chemicals on. Second answer is also in the 1950s was when the Cary Salt Company built their new corporate offices on Cary Boulevard. All of that's been torn down now, but they were pretty proud of that corporate office. And in the foyer, they had a monolith of salt that I was told was cut out of the mine with the undercutter. And we kind of wonder if maybe it hadn't come off of that slab, but we'd have no way of knowing that for sure. But that's about the right width. We call it submarine room because, of course, it kind of looks like a submarine. It's one of the biggest crystal pods that we have in the mine. I'd heard about it I started in 75. I heard about it right after I started, but never got out here to see it until the late 90s. Because this was very remote, and that's one of the reasons this tour is kind of neat, is because this whole part of this mine hasn't been touched since the 1950s, because once they got out of here, they never came back. That's not true in other parts of the mine. Other parts of the mine have been really messed with a lot because they either had to go in and change things to change the way they mine or something like that. Okay, we're entering the dark, what we call the dark part of the mine. And that's because every time I come into this part of the mine, I get this, it seems darker in here in this part. And it's kind of an overwhelming feeling, and it looks today like there's a bit of a fog in the air. Yeah. And that's kind of common in this part of the mine too. We think Tilton would have been fatally injured somewhere in this part of the mine. The time is about right. This would have been 53, 54, somewhere in there, and that's about the right timing.
We were fortunate to get up close and personal to examine the bevy of salt being mined here. After grabbing enough salt for the dinner table, we split up into 2 groups and set up for the investigation.
My name is Justin Spurrier. This is my 22nd year of investigating and researching the paranormal. Started at a very young age. First experience was at a really young age, and I've just been intrigued by it ever since.
My name is Jason Kupsik. I am the host of the Strataca Paracon, and that's how I'm associated with the salt mine here. This is my second time here, and last time I think a ghost peed on me, so I hope it happens again.
I'm here today at Strataca Salt Mine in Hutchinson. I was asked to come and be a part of this conference and come and investigate and kind of get a feel for the place. I like it so much I've been back twice now, and I haven't been peed on like Jason, and I don't look forward to that at all. But I did get some feelings of being touched and nudged, as well as a few disembodied voices that we heard. So.
Okay, for the camera's sake, we've started investigating. I'm with Jason and Justin. Barry, John, and Carmen went to another area, and we're running some stuff down here to see what's going on.
There was only one part last time that I didn't feel uneasy. I haven't felt uneasy here ever.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't bad. It just was noticeable.
I think it's just the first noticeable energy that you picked up on.
If it wasn't for the light on the cameras, it would be pitch black down here. I'm going to shut off the IR on this so you guys can see what I'm seeing. That's what I see. Now granted, I can turn that on, but I haven't yet. I keep tripping. I need to be careful, because one wrong move down here and you're in some trouble.
Hello, is anybody down here? My name is Justin, and these are my friends.
Howdy.
This is David and Jason. Make note that was my stomach. We've came a couple times before. We really enjoy this place. Are you here because you're working? If you're trying to talk to me, I have a little light down there on the ground. I'm going to point at it, okay? If you see where I'm pointing, there's a little orange light, and if you talk into that, there's a chance that I might be able to hear you. There's also some other tools and different things laying around that you can try to use to let us know that you're here. A lot of people don't believe that you're here. We believe that you are. We just need to hear it from you.
I don't know if it's the salt, but I just had something pass through right here in the front, block out some of those things.
Well, it was blinking.
No, yeah, but it wasn't blinking. It was just a couple of them right here went out for a second, it seemed like.
Are you recording that also, Jason?
My camera's running there, but I have no idea if it's picking it up or not.
They're usually hard to see on some of the cameras.
Yeah, they are. And on this, the salt soaking up a lot of the IR.
Are you picking up at all?
I can't off the ground, but
Yeah.
when it comes up here, yeah. I should have grabbed an IR box from John.
It was like literally right here. Some of those went out real quick. The ones on the floor. but it's hard to say because even if a little piece passes right in the front there. Do you hear like maybe
me-
a far off sound of air moving or something?
To me, it sounds like one of those, like a summer night with the crickets in the distance. It's almost like a natural sound,
Mm-hmm.
but you know, not hearing the crickets obviously. But I think it's just the sound of true nothingness. What else?
Where it's almost like a sound in your ear.
Yeah, where it's almost like your ears are ringing because there is no sound.
Hey, move your arm real quick. Like, wave it. Wave it fast.
Did you
Some
see
kind
Use
of
your other
break.
one. Because I felt a breeze on my arm, and it was at the same time you moved.
I don't think you would have.
The air movement down here,
It's
it
funky.
does move. It's slight, but it's constant because they're always pumping it at the same place and the same speed. And they actually, I just felt a extra breeze too. But I don't. We'll have to ask Myron about that because he told us last time that the blowers are set in certain areas to go through a certain path around the mine and back out where the salt goes out.
Okay, those two lights. When it's been 20 seconds, but two lights that are.
The far distant ones.
I don't even have my laser pointer to point to them. But you know, there's these on the floor, and then there's
On
a
the
lot
left.
of nothingness, and then there's two brighter ones
Over to the left a little bit.
right in front of you to the right.
Oh, okay, those two right there.
Yeah, those
Right
two
in the
blocked
rock
out,
pile.
right and then left blocked out, but it was real quick, like, cause I was looking right in that direction and nothing else I saw got blocked out, just those two. But you know how these dots are, they can really play with your mind. We're just gonna sit down or?
Justin, Jason, David. Session. The old tracks were. Just hanging in the middle. And it's like a quarter down.
Later in the investigation, I was joined by John, Barry, and Carmen to investigate one of the active sites where a man named Swepston was fatally injured.
Alright, so Mr. Swepster, are you here with us? Is there some story that you would like to tell us about these wonderful mines?
Did you write that name on the wall? You can see this orange light over here. This is what we call a millimeter. If you are able to create and use energy, you could possibly use that, and this might be able to pick up whatever you make, whatever you can create. So if you can do that, try seeing if you can make the numbers on that go up higher.
Will someone come over here and give us information about how these mines ran?
Huh? Seen a light?
I see it.
You think that's big light? No, that can't be big
That
light.
light moving?
No, it's not moving.
When I'm looking at right there at the bottom, it's moving.
It's like a flat light,
Yeah,
Yeah.
like you've seen something from underneath
like
the
it's
door.
coming this way. Yeah, it was like it was coming this way.
The-
That's exactly what I was seeing.
There's a.
There's a light back there, but it looks like it would be coming in underneath a curtain.
Well, there's no curtain.
Yeah, that light was like it was coming towards us.
Right here's the bend.
Yeah.
Right there's the bend.
Oh, it's on the inside of the bend?
Yeah, that's right.
Okay, kill your lights.
Back to the museum.
Yeah, there's light coming from back around that corner there. It's hitting this right here. Hitting this pile of rubble.
Can you move where the sensor shuts that light off?
Now you just have to quit moving.
Did we set it off or?
Yeah,
Do what?
you guys were walking by.
There it
There
is.
it is.
Okay, turn your light on. You still see the light? Okay, I'm gonna walk that way if I can.
After seeing a light, we were able to debunk it. The writing was literally on the wall, as our time underground had come to an end. The salt mines have been one of the most dangerous investigations we've ever done. The time went by really fast down here. Not a lot happened, but we don't know if we captured anything, so we have to go through our audio to find that out.
Really enjoying it so far. There's nothing that compares to being 650 feet underground in salt, and nothing but salt. It's amazing. Dead silent, pitch black. It's a ghost hunter's dream.
So definitely love the opportunity to come out here to the salt mines. Didn't really know what to expect besides a great atmosphere, you know, things I haven't been able to see before. But with the occasional odd noise and a few questionable things that may have happened, only the evidence will tell.